Hey there, this is Scott from Trujay, and welcome to this little webinar tutorial on moving your data from Pipedrive to HubSpot. We're going to cover a lot of the different options in which you can do so. This video is not going to be, talking about strategy or consulting or any of that kind of stuff. It's just really getting the database from Pipedrive over to HubSpot and how to do it safely, some of the easy tools, some of the cheap free tools that are out there, and then also some of the limitations that come with that, just so you're prepared and you can manage the migration properly with your teams. So let's go ahead and we'll hop right into Pipedrive to HubSpot. So the agenda for today is everything you need to know. There are certain free tools offered by HubSpot, and you can use those if you need to get just core object data over, and you're not really worried about any of the activities or any of the newer objects that Pipedrive has introduced recently. So I'll cover that. The limitations, which actually I'm going to cover limitations before we go into the different paths. That way I would just want you to know what we're talking about when we do go through those different paths. You'll know what limitations I'm talking about. And then obviously the objects that are involved with the different paths. And I want to also cover, Pipedrive is always, there's always a cutoff date whenever you are doing a migration. So you kind of know when that end date is. So just in case you're running up close to that end date, a couple options that you have and things you should do for extra security measures. And then data cleansing and best practices. So the limitations with Pipedrive. There are a few. Pipedrive is a little quirky in this respect, very different than other CRM and APIs and how they're built out. But in order for anyone to access any user of your Pipedrive instance, these are your employees using the system. In order for anybody to access the emails and attachments, they will need an API key. No one can access those unless they get an API key. It's like a 12, 15 digit number, and it's very easy to retrieve. I'll put a link in the description so you can go and click on it. It'll show you exactly how to do it. You can do it in 2 steps, but you got to send the link around the office and say, hey, everybody, I need your API keys because we're migrating your historical email correspondence and your attachments and files over as well. So how that gets a little bit quirky is you have deactivated users most likely. And if you're deactivated users, you want their emails and attachments to migrate as well. You have to contact Pipedrive and reactivate those deactivated users so that you can get an API key. And no integrator, no one will be able to grab these emails and attachments unless they have that. So important for you to know. It might mean something to your business, it might not at all, but just so that you understand, you might have a little bit of friction there with Pipedrive. Just let them know you need to reactivate. Typically, users in the past, when we've let them know that they've had to do this, Pipedrive has allowed it. So you just need to contact your Pipedrive support to make it happen. And then the other limitation I want to talk about is something that no one can do anything about, and that's their deals and the timestamps that are on the deals for when they arrive in a deal stage or how long they have been in a deal stage. That timestamp does not come with deals through the Pipedrive API. So it's about 50-50. A lot of customers don't care, but a lot of customers do. So it's something for you to know if you're looking to import your deal history. And typically when we do a migration, you can immediately pull up a report and look at how your historical deals have done. With Pipedrive, we can't do that. You will not be able to do that. We've requested Pipedrive to make the change to the API. We've tried all kinds of workarounds, and we have not been successful. So as of currently, this is beginning of March 2022. That function is still not available. So another limitation, good for you to know. All right, so we are now going to hop into the different paths that you have for migration. So if you're moving to HubSpot, they have a native import tool. It's a CSV file import. So obviously you can import your people into a CSV file. You can import the organizations into a CSV file, and you can migrate those into contacts and companies. You can also migrate deals into deals. Um, you just can't have a deal associated with multiple organizations or multiple companies inside of HubSpot. So there's a little bit of an asterisk here for you to be aware of that. So if you have something a little bit complicated like that, this might not be a good fit for you. I put the limitations alert here because emails and attachments are not on this list. As you can see, there's not a lot of objects here on this list with this native import tool. Your timeline is your own, and this option is free. All right. So HubSpot has also started building out Ops Hub, and Ops Hub has a lot of integration possibilities, and Pipedrive is one of those instances that it can sync with. So you can leverage it to sync over some of your core objects from Pipedrive into HubSpot. It is still pretty limited. It's really only core objects. Maybe in a month or so since I've recorded this video, they might add like an activity or two. But it's people, leads, organizations, deals, and that's pretty much it, what you can sync over. Most sales teams, when you talk to them, they want their emails, they want their notes, they want their attachments, their meetings, their calls, all these items. So you might want to check with them and just confirm and see if they need it. If they don't need it and you're really looking to kind of start new, this connector that HubSpot has might be a little bit better for you. But the limitation here is do not use this tool and then go hire somebody else to go get the rest of the data. And the reason that I say that is we as a migration partner, we always get the mess after the fact. They have done this and they've come to us and it's been 2 weeks and they ask us to go get the rest of the data when time has filled in the gap in between these two systems. It's been updating on both sides, data's been purged, all the fields have changed, and it creates quite a mess. So I would avoid a partial migration at all costs, just to make sure that you cause as little disruption to your business as you transition from Pipedrive to HubSpot. So yeah, that's pretty important. So just make sure you check with your users and you bring over everything that they need. I'm going to list here a bunch of objects that are inside of Pipedrive that you can confirm with them that you do in fact want to move or you don't. And then another path for migration is through somebody like us, a partner, Trujay. We have built an application, a tool. It's online. You can use it yourself. It's a wizard migration tool. And it's pretty straightforward. If you have a small to mid-sized business, you can basically use the app to move it over. You can do a guided migration. That's what our number 2 option is. It's called guided support. Somebody will hop on and do the wizard with you. And then third is just do it for me. Trujay just takes on the entire project and the data will arrive in your instance about 2 to 3 weeks later. So if you use our app, it's your own timeline. You can do it in a couple hours. You can do it in a day. Number 2 is about 1 to 1.5 weeks for the guided support. And number 3, for a custom migration, Trujay does the whole lift. We have a whole methodical process that we do. It's about 2 to 3 weeks to make sure it happens correctly. All right. So those other objects in Pipedrive, there's several. So people, leads, organizations, deals, again, emails, that's the API key that we will need, meetings, notes, deal products, and deal products are line items, products are products. Labels, which is a newer object that Pipedrive has introduced. These might be similar to something you might know as tags, just a way to identify certain records by tagging it or labeling it. Maybe they bought this, so they're interested in this product. We will migrate those into custom field dropdowns inside of HubSpot if you need us to move them over. And then activities in Pipedrive, there's like hundreds of activities. There's so many different names for them. There's deadlines and lunches and tasks and meetings and calls. Typically, what we can do is we can take, a lot of those and we can move them into one object inside of HubSpot, like tasks, or, we can move them all into notes, where it has the title, the timestamp, the body of whatever the activity is. Um, so yeah, so those are all the standard objects. And custom objects with Pipedrive, custom objects are not supported. So most likely you will not be needing to move one of those. However, if you do have data in Pipedrive that you would like to move into a custom object in HubSpot, that is possible through a custom migration where Trujay does the project for you. So these are the three paths to migrate by leveraging us. I've covered them kind of at a high level, but the first is our app online. You do it yourself. It's a wizard tool. We recommend small, mid-sized data sets. No custom objects, no data filtering, no data merging, no data complexities really here. It's almost like, you're just moving one instance from here to there. It's almost a mirror. You don't have a ton of design and reconsolidation and all, done a bunch of field changes and all that stuff. So this, your wizard price, you'll get online when you do a sample migration. You can run as many free samples with our tool as you want. The whole idea is for you to run as many free samples, keep playing with the mapping, get it exactly how you want it. And then once you're happy with the results, then you swipe your credit card and you pay for the full migration. The second option is that guided wizard. So basically one of our CSMs will hop on and do the mapping with you. So they'll make sure all the mapping is in the right spot, all the users are matched properly, and they'll do QA, they'll validate the test results, they'll make sure that your wizard migration goes off without a hitch. That is 5 hours of their time. So that's about $750 total. That goes on top of whatever your wizard cost is. Your wizard cost varies based off of record counts, by the way. So, whether you have 10,000 records or you have 300,000 records, your price could vary anywhere from $200 to, $2,000. It just really depends on how much data you have. And then the last is the custom migration, and that's where Trujay will do the work for you. You will have a dedicated CSM. It'll be a project. There will be a kickoff. There will be a mapping session. We do testing validation. We do a QA process. We do a full migration. We do a delta migration. And that's a pretty seamless, methodical process just to make sure all the design is there. These are for much bigger databases or more complex. You do have data merging. Maybe you have HubSpot data that's already inside and it's existing, so we need to merge the data, or we have to filter the data or anything like that. A custom migration, Trujay doing the work. Or, you just don't want the onus of data migration. The company's data set is, on your shoulders. So a lot of people are just like, I don't want that pressure. So they hand it off to us. It's not a problem. Okay, so Pipedrive expiration, best practices. We always recommend about 2 weeks of overlap between two CRMs. We know that no one really wants to pay for two CRMs at the same time, but it's always good for you, the customer, to have your frame of reference by looking in HubSpot. Like there's a task that's in the future and it's supposed to notify the rep. That's how it was in Pipedrive. Is it the same in HubSpot? Our QA team checks nuances of data like that, but that's just a very good example of things for you to validate on your own and make sure all the data moved. Like if you had a bunch of files that are PNGs, are those PNG files in HubSpot as well? It's just really good for you to have that overlap, so there's just not that running up to the end date, we migrate, and then you have no access anymore, and you can't really check. Also, we always ask, give some buffer between the migration end date and the actual Pipedrive cutoff. It's just always nice because as a migration can go on, things happen. There are delays. They just happen. You're running a business. conversion to another system is not at the top of your head every day. And we get it. And other things, just there's different designs. You might design the entire fields, how they're going to lay out and look, and then, somebody walks in the room and they want to change everything. So these types of issues can come up and cause some delays from time to time. It happens. So just give yourself some buffer just in case any of those should arise. And then always add to your schedule to create a full data backup. We're going to create a data backup on our own, one that we don't touch, and it's just there for security measures. We strongly urge that even if you're working with another partner or whomever, you do the same. Okay, so if Pipedrive is shutting off more urgently, really what are your options? So one thing you can do is you can reach out to Pipedrive and say, hey, I know we're getting turned off at the end of the week. We have 12 users that we're moving over. We just want to leave on one user, and we just want to leave them on for one more month. We just want to make sure we get all of our data out. They should respond to that nicely and, allow it and, offer you some pricing. So that might offer some comfort there. Another way is you can ask for Pipedrive to just have your instance to be read-only, meaning no users can actually go in there and use it, but the data is still accessible and the API is still open. So all of your teams have started moving and working inside of HubSpot, but us, the integrators or partner, can still access the data and pull it out if you're really in a time crunch there. And then if the time is really, really short, like you have 2 days or something like that, we always get a phone call like this, like I need to migrate tomorrow. The best thing that you can do is create a full data backup as soon as possible. I'm going to have a link in the description where you can run a data estimator on your Pipedrive instance. You can get like all your objects, your record counts, your field utilization. It's a really awesome report that you can get what your data looks like. As long as we can take a look at that, you can just create a backup. And with us understanding that, we'll know how much to scope, how many hours it'll take us, how many records you have, how many objects. And we will plan to migrate your backup files from Pipedrive to HubSpot rather than using the APIs to migrate to HubSpot. So data cleansing options, I know it looks like a lot here, but it's really not much. Everybody wants to move to a new system. Usually they're coming from a pretty messy situation. So data cleansing often comes up. How can we clean our data? How can we get our data up to snuff? How can we enrich our data? Things like this. As far as getting rid of irrelevant data inside your database, there's 3 ways you can do this. One is you can clean it yourself inside of Pipedrive. You know your data better than a partner does, so it might be worthwhile. However, this takes more effort for you and time to get that done. The other option is you can ask somebody like us or a partner and say, hey, can you filter the data on the way over? So I don't want any data before 2018 or any these users, we don't want to migrate any data that they are owners of. Any kind of filter that you can come up with, we can filter on the way over. This will cost more for you, and it is a little bit more work for us to do. We have to write some custom scripts for the specific objects and all their associated objects as well. And then the last option, the one that we highly recommend, is post-migration. So this is where we just move the whole database into HubSpot, and it's just so easy inside of HubSpot to filter data. And we can put filters on top of filters. I mean, just a couple clicks and you can just get rid of the irrelevant data quite easily. If you need things like bulk deduping, you have a ton of existing duplicates, or you do need data enrichment, those are services that we offer. And so just make sure you talk to us about that and we can get you prices on what that looks like. Nothing crazy expensive. So yeah, definitely give us a shout if that is interesting to you. All right, so more best practices, please. This top one I've already covered, just make sure that your sales teams reviews all the objects, you understand what they need before you move. And the reason I'm just saying that again is because just you don't want to migrate some of the data and then have to go get somebody else to migrate the rest. So no partial migrations. Um, you want to review the fields to remove before you show up to mapping session. So what's really cool is if you do use that link, that estimator, you will get a field utilization on all of your fields that you've created. So you'll see how many of your fields nobody used. And that will, obviously come up with some really better ideas on how you want to use those fields or how you want to incorporate. Maybe you want to take 10 of them that weren't used and merge them into a drop down or a pick list or a checkbox, or you just want to delete them altogether. But kind of have that in your arsenal, so when you arrive to the mapping session, you know the plan, basically. So if the plan is let's just go in there and let's all scratch our heads and ask questions and try and figure it out in the session, it's going to make the session kind of drag out a lot longer than it should. So just something for you to keep in mind. If you have like pipeline consolidation, mandatory fields, automations to configure and understand is always helpful ahead of migration. Just another thing you want to bring to the mapping session. You have 8 pipelines, it's going to be 3. You just want to make sure the partner knows that, and then you can map everything accordingly, all those pipelines and deal stages. We're going to create a backup for security measures. I covered that piece. We recommend that you do the same. And if you're going to use the wizard and you want to see a live demo of how it works or how the mapping features work, just ask us. We've got those looms and demos, and we can share those with you. Easy peasy. All right. So to wrap up, sum up, so you review all objects, stay away from partial migrations, give as much buffer as possible for overlap, plan ahead, think ahead. Consider if a resource on your side has bandwidth to clean data. If so, you can clean it before and you'll have a fresh data set arrive. And if you're using the wizard and you've already cleaned the data set, then you'll probably have a smaller amount of records, and there you will save some costs as well. And then we recommend for you to do a data health assessment. You can do this in Pipedrive. You can do it after migration in HubSpot. I'll put the link in our description below, but you can see a data health assessment. And that will give you a letter grade on the state that your data is in, how many marketable contacts do you have, how many deliverable contacts do you have, how many duplicates do you have, things like that, just so you can get a better idea of what state your data is in, and you can come up with some ideas on how you want to resolve it. And then lastly, because most of our customers, we migrate them into HubSpot, we have vast knowledge of HubSpot, the inside, the outside, and they tend to fall in love with our team. We've got a great team here. And so we have just naturally built a HubSpot admin program that we have in different tiers, small, medium, large, and you can do requests on demand. So you might have 2 requests with us a month, and one might be, hey, go build me this custom report. Or another one is, I need this advanced workflow with, Zapier and Slack and HubSpot. Just things like that we can do for you, along with some automated deduping and some other HubSpot check feature checks. Any kind of neglect in HubSpot, we want to point them out and see how we can optimize those so that your investment in HubSpot is working for you all the time. And then mostly the big thing about the HubSpot admin program is, we always move people from messy situations, and we move them into this nice, clean visual tool like HubSpot, and we don't want the mess to happen again. So that is what the admin program is there for. It's going to keep your data in check. It's going to keep your HubSpot instance in check. And you're going to have somebody there who can consult, give best practices, do advanced trainings, execute certain tasks on demand. and it's a really great system, and it's been working out quite well for a lot of our customers. So feel free to inquire about that. We have a deck that we can send along for you to review. Um, but yeah, that is it. That is Pipedrive to HubSpot. We did it. We're about 25 minutes in, and I'm going to get a glass of water. Thank you for joining, and we'll talk to you soon.